Alright, we're going to continue sketching now. I'll go ahead and switch to the paintbrush and change my brush alpha to something more sharp. I'll also go ahead and speed up the playback for much of the video in order to keep the duration somewhat reasonable. I'm going to change my brush alpha to something a little bit larger. Switch to the smudge tool. Just switch to the tweak room to use the move tool for that purpose. Kind of straighten some of these lines out. I'm going to rename this layer something that's a little more identifiable. I'll go ahead and save while I'm at it. And just to reiterate, sketching in the 2D editor allows me to work kind of in a non-symmetrical fashion, and when I want to work in symmetry, then I can just sketch in the 3D viewport. This would be a good point to start utilizing the depth channel in order to paint or sculpt normal map bump or displacement detail. At any point, if we want to see real displacement, we can check this show displace mesh, but for now I'm just going to leave that off. Our depth, I'll bring it down to about 10. I don't want it to be too drastic, and I'll just name this F base. I can hold the shift key to smooth on the fly. By the way, you can see the normal map as you're working on it in the 2D texture editor. I'll just go back to color for now. I'll switch to a different draw mode. And this time, for just kind of base shapes, I'm going to crank my fall off a bit. And hold the control key to actually dig in a little bit. This might be a good juncture to utilize tapering, so I'll click on that to bring up the panel. Just modify the curves a little bit. I'll now go to the Shift Layer tool and use Pinch. I'm going to switch to the Expand brush. Another major benefit to sketching in 3D Coat is the ability to take full advantage of smart materials to texture your sketch much like you would a 3D object. This allows you to paint or fill entire sections of your sketch with the same realistic materials that you would on a 3D object. Let's choose a cartoon type of material. Once you click on the Smart Material icon, it's going to begin the process of evaluating the surface and creating a curvature map. Once done, it's now asking me if I want to create an ambient occlusion map. What 3D Coat is going to do is if you painted on the normal map whatever relief you had on that map, 3D Coat is going to treat it as if it's real 3D displacement. If you have not done any normal map or displacement map sculpting on your sketch, then this is obviously a step you would want to skip, because your sketch would then have no surface relief whatsoever. Everything would be flat, and thus it has nothing to evaluate. So I can turn on the curvature map and you can see how it's treated this. It's applying brighter values wherever I have relief and darker values where it actually extends into the model. I'll go ahead and turn that off. I went ahead and skipped forward a bit after pausing the recording. I added the darker background, tweaked the proportions a little bit, and tried to add a little bit of skin texture. There's so much more I could do, but again, this is just a demonstration to illustrate that you can indeed use 3D Coat quite capably as a sketching tool set if you so choose. At this point, I'm just going to test out some PBR Smart materials and see how it works. Then we'll do a final render and be done. Once I get started here, I'm going to speed up the playback in order to speed things along somewhat. We'll get started by working on this topmost layer, which is mostly blank. Move my preview window. Scale it up a little bit. Change the mapping type to UV mapping. You can use the little scaling widget. Try something else. Adjust the depth back down. And we can go a little bit strong here. We don't have to try and match the amount of depth that we ultimately want, because we can always dial it back down. And as I'll do here shortly, I'll use the magnification reduction brush with a depth channel, and I can locally reduce the amount of depth in a painterly fashion. Okay, so dial it back down using the reduction brush. This smart material requires an ambient occlusion map, so I'll just go with the defaults. Add a new layer, I'll call it glow. Because I want both the projection and the thumbnail to be flat, I switch to camera projection. Just for the sake of curiosity, I'm going to test an old worn metal smart material. Went ahead and turned off the depth channel, just painting with color and gloss. Turn the gloss intensity way down. Now step into the render room. I'm going to choose a few different HDR maps and see how the lighting works. Rotate the environment map. Going to now turn on real-time render. This is your interactive render, and it utilizes a GPU for both interactive and for the final rendering. I'm going to switch to a different HDR map that has more blue sky in the environment. I like to turn off real-time render while I'm adjusting the rotation or the lighting, and then turn it back on. And when we're done, you just set the location for your output file, and then just click render and let it do its thing. Alright, it's time to wrap things up, and I want to conclude by saying, if you happen to be an illustrator by profession or do a lot of sketching, make sure to give 3D Coat a try in this regard and put some of your work done in 3D Coat on the gallery. We really would like to see it, and hope you found it helpful, and thank you for watching.